Hey guys, Avish here, and in this demonstration I will be showing you how to implement and set up a VPN solution in Windows Server 2008 as well as connecting to that VPN using Windows 7. Right? Now, VPN or virtual private network is basically a private network that runs over a public network or the internet as we most commonly know it as, right? It allows that user to have a secure connection to a specific destination for sharing and accessing resources, right? Now, this is most common utility used in like workplaces and stuff for those who work remotely from at home or elsewhere, right? So, in order to set this up, we have to go into our add rules feature, which is in our server manager, since it is an additional rule to be installed in Windows Server 2008, right? So let me just bring this up. So you select add rules, right? Add rules, and here we see it as network policy and access services, right? So once you select that, here in this little box, in this section, is a little description of what this rule is supposed to do, right? So I'll go ahead and click next. Again, just further detailed description about this rule. Right now, with this rule services, I'll select the first two options, and by default the other two here will be selected. That is remote access service and routing. Right, so I'll select next. Right, after that I just go ahead and install. Right, and this normally installs fairly quickly. Right. Right, so see it's almost done there. Right. Right, so it has successfully installed, right, as indicated there. So I will close this and now go forth into configuring this. Right, so basically it's just to go and configure the how the VPN would behave in a new utility then, right, known as remote and routing access, or routing and remote access, sorry. So I'll go ahead and click that. Nice. Let me just expand this. Now, as you can see here, there's a red arrow that is on the left of the of well, this VPN, right? And that indicates that this is inactive or it's down. So what I'll have to do is right click and select configure and enable routing and remote access to the top here, right? Now this is just a startup, so I'll go ahead and click next, right? Now, customarily, we're required to have two or more network cards or Ethernet connections in our systems or servers, right? But seeing as I only have one, so I'll just select custom configuration, right? Select next. Right, from this list here, we'll be using the VPN access. That's what we want to enable on the server. So I'll go ahead and select that alone. Next. Nice. So that is there. Right, so this is just a little prompt here that tells you that it has created a default connection request policy, right? And basically this service is now going to be starting up, as you can see here, right? So I select start service, right? So it takes a little while, right? And our service has started, so I select finish. Nice. So now we can see the arrow turn from red to green, right? And here we can expand and see a number of things, right? So on the ports, I'll want to configure one of these ports later on to some lower figure, which I will show you, right? And there are other features here, but we'll mostly be dealing with the port section, right? So I'll get back to that later on, right? But for now, I'll be jumping into creating an access policy for it, right? So to go forth and configure a new access policy, which will determine how users access and use the VPN at given times, right? You'll have to go into a tool offered in the administrative tools menu called network policy server. Right, so I go ahead and click that. Right, now under here in this little window, we see that there's one of the subcategories are policies. So once I expand that, I will select the folder Network Policies. Now, by default, you will see two policies that are already here. Now, these are predefined as soon as the VPN has been created, right? But we don't want to use that. We want to create our new one, right? So, what I would do is I would select New, right? Now, this policy name can be anything you desire, right? But in this case, for this demonstration, I will just name it the demonstration policy, demonstration VPN policy, actually, right? And the type of network access to the server would be remote access or VPN dial-up, right? So I will select next. Right. Now here we get to add a condition, right? Now once we click the add and we get this list of available options that to select from, we will be looking for tunnel type, right? So once we click that, double click on it, out of these options here, the two that we'll be using is the layer 2 tunneling protocol, or L2TP, and the point-to-point tunneling protocol, PPTP. So I will go ahead and select these two checkboxes, select OK, and there we go. So I'll select next. Here is just the area that specifies access permission, right? So we don't want to have anything changed here just for this, right? Of course, it may differ from network to network depending on your needs to be met. So I will just leave mine as access granted. All right, so I'll click next. Now at this window here where it says configure authentication methods, right? Just for this demonstration, I will only be using the Microsoft encrypted authentication version 2. Right, so I will go ahead and uncheck user can change password after it expired, and the other one which will be Microsoft encrypted authentication. Right, and once I uncheck that one, the box below by default fades out and becomes unchecked. Right, so I will go ahead and select next. Right, now at this point we get to set up the time or configure what sessions that are allowed by users when accessing this VPN, right? So under day and time restrictions, I will select allow access only on these certain days, right? And by selecting that, you're now allowed to edit how the user accesses. Now on this little table here, right, we see, well, it's all blue right now, and the but the colors here, they indicate whether permitted or denied. In this case, all is permitted as it is highlighted blue. Now if I want to deny someone, I like, let's say on Monday, perhaps between the hours of 6 and 2, where I would look on the relevant box and highlight as we go along there, right? So and then as it's highlighted, I select denied, and there you go. Now you see from the period of 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Mondays, the selected users will not be able to access this VPN, right? Now you can do it according to um, whatever timetable or schedule or however you you desire, right? But in this case, I'm just gonna show you just this one little thing, right? Select OK, right? And then I select next. Right. Now, at this point, the only thing here to be configured would be the encryption, as is the second to last option here. Right. So once I select it, you'll see 4 checkboxes that each have, well, each of them being checked. Now, each of them specify a type of encryption or even no encryption that you'll want to have. Now, in this case, we want to have the strongest encryption, as we want it to be the most secured when using this. Right. It's customary that you do that. Right. So I'll uncheck all other boxes and only leave the strongest encryption, which is MPPE 128-bit, checked. Right, so I select next. Right, now this is just a summary layout of what you have, just to verify your configurations before you proceed. Right, and you can always go back and to make sure to change anything that you desire. So I select finish, and there we see this policy is here and it's active as indicated by the green tick. So good, that is checked. Now I will go and configure the ports and how it should behave, right? So in order to do this, I will go back into the administrative tools, select routing and remote access, right? And under ports, right, I will right click, select properties, and of the 4 options here, I want to only configure L2TP and SSTP, right? So I'll right click on it, or well, actually I'll just configure, right? And here where we see the maximum ports, just for this demonstration only, I just want to reduce the number to 25, right? So right, they will give me a prompt that just to confirm that I made that choice and I want to have it reduced. So I will select continue, right? And I'll also do the same thing for the other one, SSTP. So I'll also change that to 25 and select OK. Again, the prompt comes for my confirmation. So I select yes and apply. Right there we see all the ports for under this has been changed or configured to reflect. Right? Right. And now I can go ahead and attempt to connect from Windows 7. Right now, based on the configurations that are done, things should go off without, well, without any problem, right? So let me just start up my Windows 7 VM. Good, so we are up with Windows 7. Let me just log in. Now I would use the administrator account because it has the privilege which allows me to perform any network changes, well, local Ethernet changes. Right, right, nice. Okay, so now that we are in, now I will proceed to configure and connect to the VPN that was created on Windows Server 2008. Now in order to do this, I will go on the network indicator right here to the bottom right, right click on it, open network and sharing center, and in it I will change adapter settings, right? Now, oops, actually that's my mistake. I would actually go to set up a new connection or network, right? And under this option here, I will select connect to a workplace or a dial-up or VPN connection as indicated here. Select next, right? I will use my internet connection, so I'll leave that there, right? I'll set up my internet connection later. Now in this little box here, we enter the IP address of the server that you're connecting to. Right now, in this case, my IP address will be 192.168.0.1, right? And the destination name, I will just give it demonstration VPN, right? Nice, and everything else remains as is, and I will select next. Now at this point here, they will require an account that has privilege to access this VPN, right? Now because I configured it on the administrator account, which is the highest level there, right? I will use that account and its relevant password, right? I will also check the box that says remember this password so I don't have to enter it repeatedly, right? The domain is optional, but we will just leave it blank for now, right? So I will select create and there we go. The connection is ready to use. So I will go forth and verify that. So this connection would appear in your option that says change adapter settings, where you see all your Ethernet connections or adapters on your computer or your system, right? This is the new connection that was just created, right, for VPN. So I will select connect, right? Here we see administrator there, right? And I don't really need to change the password. Well, let me just see if it connects. By default, it sets save the username and password, so the user would just have to click connect, right? So it's verifying, right? Right, it's connecting there now. Right, and here we see it has connected and indicated as in my domain, right? And under here we see the WAN mini port, PPTP as well, right? So yeah, that pretty much indicates that the connection has successfully been configured and stuff like that, and users are able to connect, right? So now if you go back to our Windows Server end, right, Server 2008 end, we will be able to verify that the port is in use and functional, right? So I will just minimize this and bring up my Windows Server virtual machine, right? So under administrative tools, I'll go in routing and remote access, right? Here we see ports. Now I will check the status section on top here just to show all active, and here we go. We see one mini port VPN2-127 is active, as is the only connected port on my Windows 7 client, right? And this basically concludes how to set up and implement VPN solutions in Windows Server 2008 while creating a desired policy associated with it and having a client, in this case Windows 7, connecting in order to access resources. Right, so I hope this was helpful to you viewers, and thank you for watching. Bye bye.